did see some of you brought your Chromebooks and you wanted to check that off and get that done tonight. If you did not bring your Chromebook, that is totally fine. Our scheduling window is open until the 28th. So I was told that I'm just going to do introductions tonight, which is not normal for me, so I'm so excited just to do the introductions and hand it over, but I am definitely here as part of the questioning. We have two amazing counselors with us tonight, and first of all, I am Mrs. Nace, I'm principal here at the middle school. The two counselors that we have, and they split each grade level, is Mrs. Bowles and Mrs. Craig. And we also have our assistant principal, Mr. Fry, with us. So I was told they're going to take the show, and I'm going to hand the mic over, and we'll be here for questions at the end.
All right, is everybody excited about scheduling? That's better than I thought it would be. I mean, I was hoping for some pom-poms, something. But this is exciting because it means that we're moving forward. And that's always what we want you to be doing, moving forward. Especially like 6th graders. I've known some of you for a very long time and thinking about you going into 7th grade, that's really awesome. So, and some of you 7th graders going into 8th grade, like, it's just a good time. So even if you're worried, nervous, that's what we're here for, to help with that. We want you to enjoy the ride. Okay? And adults, if you have questions too, we are always here too. As Mrs. Nace said, students have until March 28th to put their schedules in, but we want to make sure that they definitely do that. So we will also have the recording of tonight's information on our website. So if you want to go back and watch it, that will be available. We're going to just kind of go over a little bit of information. I had some students come up to me today and they're like, what do you mean I get to schedule? So this is like 6th graders. And they're like, wait, I get to pick my classes? And kind of true, okay? They get to have a voice. So we are preparing you because as you go into the high school then, you're gonna have even more of a voice and more choices. So we are just preparing you for that. Because in elementary, you might have been thinking, like, I didn't really get much of a say into what I did. But as you get older, you get more of those freedoms, but you also get more responsibilities. Okay, so these are just some of the ways that our students have voice and choice here at the middle school. 7th graders, you probably already are aware. 6th graders, hopefully you're aware, but if you're not, take a look at these, and if you have any questions, we can certainly answer future questions if you have them. So electives, 7th and 8th grade, you are going to have a chance to prioritize your electives. So if there's an elective that you really want, you get to prioritize that. You do not get to prioritize math, English, science, and social studies. Sorry, okay? You have to take those. Club choices. We are on our 3rd rotation of clubs right now, and this is a new experience for me because this is my first year at the middle school, and you get a choice in your club. You know, some of you pick a club to be with your friends. Some of you pick clubs because of the interest. Some of you might even suggest clubs to a teacher, which is really cool. So you get to be in a club every week, and we have clubs every Thursday morning. Leadership. So if you're a student or maybe an adult here that you're like, my student is a strong leader, encourage them to get involved in these different leadership opportunities. A lot of times the leadership opportunities do involve some kind of application, so make sure that you're asking questions so that you meet the deadlines. Also thinking about any kind of academic enrichment. So we're going to talk about some of those as we go throughout the presentation tonight, but depending on where your skills are, if you're interested in chorus and band, those are options. If you're interested in foreign language, if you are a student that excels in math, that is not me, but if that is you, there's opportunities for that. So make sure middle school is a time to really think of what do I need to make my experience better as I'm moving into high school. There's also going to be opportunities for student focus groups. So Mrs. Nace and Mr. Fry might say, we need to hear from the students. They will select students, who are doing well in your class. They will select students that maybe they aren't the most outgoing students, but maybe they're like, we want to hear their voice. They'll select you to be a part of a focus group. And then also middle school athletics. Some of you are already involved in that. If you are in 6th grade, you can get into the middle school athletics next year. If you're in 7th grade now, you can still get into middle school athletics in 8th grade. So these are just some of the different choices that you have in middle school, if you aren't already aware. Anybody that is a current student, were any of these new to you? Okay, that's awesome. That means you're listening. That's good. All right, thinking about the schedule. The schedule for next year is going to be, does this look like our schedule this year, students? I hope so, or else you're following the wrong schedule. Okay, so our schedule is going to be a 6-day cycle. You know what that means. So pretty much your day is the same, except when we're talking about those middle win A, B, and C. And so adults might be like, huh? But students, you get it, right? Hopefully, or we'd see you lost in the halls. Students do have a choice, like we said, on their electives, and they'll want to make sure they prioritize. If you do not do that, then we have to guess what class you might like. We are going to remind you until March 28th, but if you don't prioritize your classes, we don't know that. And those 2 electives per day, we have 4 different quarters. So depending on what electives you pick, those electives might be a quarter, or they might be all year long, like a band or a chorus, or a foreign language for 8th graders. Okay? You get 8 electives per year, so if you are a student that's not in band or chorus or a foreign language, you could have 8 different courses throughout the year as electives. Okay? But if you're picking those courses that are year long, that's going to make it limited to the other electives you can take, which is okay? Because you need to pick what's important to you and what's going to work for you. PE, health, and STEM, those are classes that our current 6th graders, going to be 7th graders, all have to take. So those of you that are sitting here in 7th grade, those are classes that you have right now. Okay? If you are in the 7th grade now, going into 8th grade, you are not required to take any specific classes. Okay? So that's why it says options in 8th grade. So in 6th grade, you're required to take certain classes. 7th grade, you're required to take certain classes, but in 8th grade, you have a little bit more flexibility. Band and chorus, those would be 4 out of your 8 electives. So you have 8 electives for the whole year. If you want to be in band, chorus, or both, that would be 4 out of your 8 electives. Okay, so that is a year-long program, year-long commitment. So just keep that in mind, and if you have questions, if you're not currently in band or chorus, make sure you can reach out to Mr. Tiffany, who's our band teacher, or Mrs. Schober, who is here, who is our chorus teacher. So reach out to them. They've been invited you to come and see their class too. So if you're not sure, go check it out. Spanish 1 and French. This is only for 8th graders. Who did I say? 8th. Okay. So if you are going into 7th grade and you really want to take them, that is awesome. You will have a chance to do that next year, or you'll schedule next year for 8th grade. Okay? That is a year-long commitment as well. So if you decide to be in French or Spanish, I do have some students doing both. That's up to the student, but that would take up 4 out of your 8 electives. So if you're sitting here and you're in 7th grade, going into 8th, and you say, I want to do Spanish, and I also want to do band and chorus, that would take up all of your electives. Which, again, is okay if that's what you want to do, but we want you to be mindful of what you're scheduling.
One other thing we want to mention to 6th graders, current 6th graders, lunch will look different for you next year because you're going to be mixed with 8th graders. And you might have lunch during the Win B period, the WB up on the schedule, or you might have lunch during Win C. It's going to depend on the cycle day and what class you have that day. So that will be a change for you. And also electives. Electives will be, our electives in 7th and 8th grade are mixed. There are 7th and 8th graders in all elective classes. 6th grade is different, we keep them separated. So that'll be a nice change, I think, for the current 6th graders to look forward to next year.
So speaking of 7th and 8th graders being mixed in electives, that's kind of where our course description, which you all should have picked up, and if you didn't, we have more copies back there. It's a front and back sheet of course description, so if you're like, I don't know what that is, this is your sheet, okay? And it will be on our website too. This year, or next year will be year A, and if I explain this wrong, let me know. So we switch A one year, B the next, because 7th and 8th graders are in the same electives, and we want to make sure that we're offering different things to you. Does that make sense to you? So next year is going to be an A, the following year will be a B. So we switch back and forth so that you have different opportunities. So our course descriptions, make sure that you grab one, you read over them, ask questions if you have questions. Make sure you're not just prioritizing classes that your friends want. Okay? Because you might get in a class and be like, I don't really like this, but my friend does, and then you might not be friends next week, you know? So it's always good just to do it for yourself, okay? This just gives a better look at the course description, so just make sure you take this if you did not take it. If someone you know is not here tonight, all of the information will be on the website for you to be able to review after tonight.
All right. I'm going to share a little bit about the other handout that you all took when you walked in. And again, like Mrs. Bowles said, this will also be posted on the middle school webpage. So if you know anyone who couldn't attend, they can access this document on our website. This is just basically an overview of how students, you are going to prioritize your electives. The first step is that you're going to log into Aspen and you're going to click My Info. And then along the left side, you're going to see Requests. So you'll click on Requests. When you do that, step 3, you're going to see some categories listed, and there's a Select button to the left of each category. It would be wise for you to check out each category before you submit your request, but 2 of those are band and chorus. So it's okay if you know for sure you don't want to be in band and chorus, you don't really have to go in there. Those are the only courses listed. But to be thorough, I think it's nice to go hit select on each category. The current 7th graders are going to see a category called Foreign Language. That is not to be confused with our elective class that's called World Language. So if you see something, 7th graders, that says Foreign Language up there, that is where you'll see Spanish 1 and French 1. So if you want to take one of those languages next year, you want to make sure you click the select button beside Foreign Language, and then you'll see Spanish and French listed. So after you go through each select button to see what the options are, you're going to prioritize those electives. So one of the select buttons is beside the electives courses. So you have band, chorus, the 7th graders will see Foreign Language, and then everybody sees electives. When you click on that select button for the electives, you'll note that all the boxes to the left side are already pre-checked. So that's because we want you to rank every single one of those classes. You're not going to take everyone, but we still want to know what your top priority is down through the last one so that we know we're not giving you your last choice if we're trying to get you into a class. So again, on the left, they're all pre-selected. What you need to do, students, is prioritize. So you're going to see a column to the right that says priority, and you are going to rank those electives. If I want art the most, and I'm very passionate about art, I am going to put a number 1 beside that class. And then maybe I like music, second best. I'm going to put a 2 beside that one. And you're just going to go down the line until you've ranked all 9 elective classes. Once you've done that, you are going to there's one more option at the bottom of your screen where you can send a note to me or Mrs. Bowles as your counselors. I've put a couple examples on the sheet of things that you might want to tell us. One being, if you are an FFA member or you're sure you're going to continue FFA next year, you are going to need to take Tech Ed with Mrs. McIntyre. So that's an important piece of information we need to know. That would be appropriate for you to say, I'm planning to be an FFA member, I really need to have Tech Ed, so we can prioritize that for you. Mrs. McIntyre is also going to actually have an application process for FFA for next year, so we will have 2 ways to get that information, but that is an example of a good note you could send one of us. And then I also put up there are students, I'm not saying that we highly recommend this, but if you're very passionate about foreign language, it is possible to take 2 languages as an 8th grader. So current 7th graders, you could do that. I would caution you, that's going to be a lot of work. It's a pretty rigorous course. So if you really want to do that and you've talked to your parents and you all agree that that's what you want, it would be nice to put a note in so we know that wasn't a mistake. You really do want both of those. So those are just 2 examples I gave as notes. What we don't want you to do is tell us, I want to be in all my classes with my best friend. That's not an acceptable note to us because we can't do that for you, and it's not a good choice for you. Like Mrs. Bowles said, we want you to take classes that you're passionate about and rank them accordingly. So if you have any notes, if you don't have any notes, that's totally fine. Once you put notes in for us, you're going to hit post. right under the notes for counselor. That post button is really important. We want to know that you submit everything to us so that we don't have an issue seeing what you ranked as your elective choices. So just real quickly go through each one again. The first step is just click on the select button on the left side after you've logged in. You're going to see all the different options. Hit select and view each one. That world language option or foreign language is only going to be available to current 7th graders. 6th graders, you will not see that. And then make sure you click on the electives. We showed Pand as an example here too. The electives, you're going to have to prioritize 1 through 9. I think in our sample up here, and I apologize, I think there are 10. You don't really have 10 choices. So you're going to rank 1 through 9 beside your electives. If you need to make a note to us, please do it here, and then hit that post button. If you have any questions about any of that, it's pretty simple, but if you have any questions about it, please let us know. Again, you will have time in the Commons tonight that you can start to prioritize your electives, and we're here to answer any questions you have in that process. Another thing just to point out with math, this is the progression. We have 6th grade, we have IM math. In 7th grade, we have 7th grade IM, and then an accelerated 7-8 class for math. And then that group who takes the accelerated math in 7th grade will then take algebra in 8th grade. In order to determine who is eligible or ready for the accelerated classes, we use a lot of data points to make sure that if we're suggesting that a student go into an accelerated class, they're ready for that. So you can see lots of data that we collect. Common unit assessment scores in math. We use iReady data. We use fall, winter, and spring. We have IXL and Firefly, and that gives us additional information about your capability in math. We use a teacher recommendation rubric to give a score for each student. We also give an algebra readiness test to students who show acceleration in math, and we want to make sure they're ready for the algebra class. And then we also use PSSA scores, past and current. We don't get current scores from this year's PSSA until summer, but we do pull that and make sure that where we have suggested that students go from math class is appropriate. So we do use the current scores as well. And then also we look at the students' final grades in math. All right, so if you see students, your schedules will be available in Aspen in like the 1st or 2nd week of August. So when you go into Aspen and you can see those schedules, if you notice maybe we scheduled you for the accelerated math, or maybe we scheduled you for Algebra 1, and you and your family have decided, I understand that I'm able to take it, but I'm not sure I'm ready. If something like that happens, please make sure you contact the counselors or the principals, one of them. Make sure you do that before school starts. It's a lot harder for us to even think about changing a schedule once the school year starts, but we can try to work with any major problems in the summer. So starting like the 2nd week of August up until the day before school starts, that would be the best time to tell us when there's a problem so we can try to work it out for you.
So I was just going to say with this, we'll know at the end of the school year. We get PSSA data usually end of June. I have reached out in the past to all students, to parents of students who are eligible for the accelerated class, because there is no rush to be pushing your child on this course. Because what it is doing, this course is actually 7th grade and 8th grade math curriculum through IM. Squeezed and condensed together. It's a super fast pace. That's why we use data to support students being able and eligible to in that class. And I've had parents before, they love getting that email and phone call, and some have opted out. There's not a rush to be in that class, to be getting algebra in the middle level, and I don't want to be stressing students out. But again, we use the data to say, hey, everything's pointing that your child will be successful. Because at the high school, if that's their pathway, they love math, and they can double up at the high school in 2 math classes. Some like the faster track. So I do reach out. Usually it's in an email, and then I say, please contact me if you do not want your child to be in it. That way our counselors can get that information when they return in August.
Another important piece of information with algebra is that when students take Algebra 1, they also have to take the Keystone exam. That's a requirement for graduation. So if you choose to take that class as a middle schooler, you will have to take the Keystone exam after the course is completed. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is the scheduling process we have, where you're ranking electives, prioritizing, and you're doing this all in Aspen. It mirrors what high school students do when they select courses. So I like that we're giving you a sample of what it's going to be like when you're selecting courses for high school. It's the same format, so it should be a little easier as you go through year after year.
Back to out of Mathland and into foreign language, the one thing I did want to point out there too is if your child does take the year-long as an 8th grader foreign language class, I do know if they're planning to go on to college, some of the prerequisites from college ask that your foreign language experience of 2 years take place in the high school setting. So I just wanted to put that out there because, yeah, it's super nice to take Spanish 1 here, but some colleges do say and state that they want the 2-year experience of a foreign language to be taking place in the high school. And they do offer multiple years. So you could take Spanish 1 here, go to the high school, and go on to 2 and 3. Is there a level 4? Okay, I'm seeing head nod. So it goes up to level 4. So I wanted to make sure you knew that, and I always get this wrong every year, so I'm going to rely on the counselors. But I believe this course does it count as a credit, but not towards GPA. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, they get a credit, but it does not count as their credits towards graduation, I think. It doesn't
And
count,
GPA, yeah.
and it doesn't count in your GPA. Yeah.
So it's something to think about. I mean, it doesn't seem to deter students from starting it here, but again, if they go on, they might need to take 2 years of it, level 2 and 3 of a language at the high school level. So that's something to think about. And again, I just want to make sure that they understand the elective side. So if you're an 8th grade student, you want to do both, a year Spanish 1 and French 1 in 8th grade, you get no other electives. So that is a year-long commitment, along with our band and chorus. So you've got to think through, like, am I committing? Am I really wanting that pathway for an entire year? Because it does take up, each of them individually, 4 out of the 8.
So like we've already mentioned a couple times, the Aspen is open now for students to start prioritizing their electives and posting that information for us. And you have until Friday, March 28th to get that done. So take some time, talk it over with your families, make sure you're making good decisions about the courses that you want to take, and then make sure they're submitted to us by March 28th. Are there any questions that we can answer for you? You're free to come see us afterwards too. Anybody have any questions? Yeah.
What if we take the post on and we have a change of heart?
That's a good question. It's a good question for middle schoolers. If you hit post by accident, or you hit post and then you forgot to tell your parents something that you put in there, we can definitely still work with that. I don't know if we have to get the tech department to undo it, but either way, the counselors can see and change things as we go along too. So worst case scenario, come see your counselor and we'll fix it for you. Yep, go ahead. You're going to have in high school, there are going to be a lot more options. So right now you have art, phys ed, health, family consumer science, all the other elective courses that you have. In the high school, there's not just one of each of those. They have several in each category. So you really get to start to hone in on exactly what you like, ceramics or drawing or digital art. You know, there are lots of different courses within each category, which is nice. And then there are advanced levels of your core classes too. There are also a lot of activities that you can get involved in high school. So it's a busy time, but a fun time.
So you'll have a night when you schedule for high school, they had theirs Tuesday night, similar to the same thing. You'll get all that information. We just went through it with our 8th grade students, and the high school came down here and spoke to all of them. So you'll get all that information and have that opportunity at night as well next year, or when you're in 8th grade.
Vincent, go ahead. If you're an accelerated now, can you? Yes. Your natural progression would be to take algebra at 8. So if you don't want to take algebra at 8, then you would just take 8th grade math. Is that right?
So you wouldn't, because what you did in that accelerated is 8th grade curriculum. You'd be getting the same material again at 2 years of the same thing. So the progression based on the math pathway, when you're in accelerated, that's a pathway. 7-8 accelerated goes into algebra 1.
That's a good question, Vincent, because that's something you want to know as you're planning what math classes you want to take. Yes, Mrs. Shade.
In 7th grade, if you have world language exploration, if you take it again in 8th grade, is it different than 7th grade? Because it reads kind of like it's the same thing. So.
Yes, and that is, they make sure that those experiences are completely different. So, and again, I'll just give an art example. So the one year they do the 2D, the next year is going to be like 3D art. So they make sure that the A experience is going to be a different experience than B, so you're not duplicating it.
These are all really good questions. Thank you. Yeah.
It sounded like for the 7th graders, the 2B 7th graders, that they had to take health, PE, and STEM. So it sounds like 3 of their electives are already chosen for them. Yes.
That's correct, and that's a good point too. So current 6th graders, if you want to take band or chorus, you are going to have band or chorus as part of your electives for the year, so that's half of your electives, that's 4. You're also then going to have STEM, PE, and health, that's 7 electives, so you have 1 left for the year. So if you're in band or chorus, going into 7th grade, you have to take STEM, PE, and health. That only leaves 1 slot open for an elective of you're going to rank your electives. We're going to try to get you one of your highest choices for that last class.
And I don't think we mentioned this, but in case you're planning to join chorus and weren't before, band and chorus, if I'm in both, we have a 6-day cycle so that it doesn't take up 8 of the electives. They actually do it a 1-3-5 and then a 2-4-6 option so that they can have 3 days of each, participate in both, and still have 4 slots for electives. The only time it's going to take all the electives is when you have the 4 in language in 8th grade with the chorus and band in that option.
All right, well, we thank you so much for coming. I know this is a busy time of year, and we appreciate you taking the time out to come. If you would like to work on your prioritizing your electives, we will meet you in the comments after this in case you need any help. If you feel like you know what you're doing, you're free to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they gotta go. My dad takes the dog back. Really? I like to have a cat for the mice around. I tried it. I tried it. We went out there to the for local cat. Because they wasn't. Yeah, I know. Because it was one. Dump truck. The cat they had was a gigantic. So nice.
You're ready for
And
middle school now?
they told me.
Where were they?
The guy
Ben, you look, did you go over and look? Check down like to the road, one down, just in case it slid down the floor or something.
Okay, so he's not in this year.
Right. Yeah, she texted you this year. Yeah, sure.
Well, to be an FFA, so.
I guess it's expensive. Yeah. But being a
So the other thing is like, I think she was gonna do something new for coming year, but they actually, yes, they can sign up, but if it was just so long, like it's almost like an application process to limit the number of people. And I do the same thing with principals caps for my leadership, because it's like, wow, you can get so many people in there, and it's not functioning like it should. I have not heard how she's gonna do
Right,
it.
and that's the one thing we need for everything to do. So we know what's gonna happen. We could proceed, I mean, it's not like I told you. It's
Well,
not
what I could do if they can do, if anything gets
like
like wrong, like, I do those push-outs, like usually once a month, I can make sure that the FSA does it, and then we check our webpage too, I'll put one sheet, she was just here earlier today, she was something, but like, make sure she gets it on the webpage. Thank you. Yeah.
17 people. I figure out the time.
Right, because we,